Since 1945, the mandate of BDC has been to help small and medium-sized businesses that are domiciled in Canada to grow. What we do is we maintain a roster of independent consultants who have the attributes and the skills and the experience necessary to sort of meet the standard of BDC's requirements, and we maintain them in each of our marketplaces across the country. And whenever someone will approach BDC or BDC approaches them and sees an opportunity to help, we'll bring that consultant in on a project basis, and for a fee, but usually it's a fee that a small business can afford. I mean, BDC is in the business of helping startups. We do it on a fairly selective basis. And it has a lot to do with the fact that when it comes to, and this is the lending side of the bank, which is the part of the bank that I represent. When it comes to startups, the key element is that we're using debt, and debt is loans, and loans have a tendency to need cash flow to support them. So in many cases, startups, especially they're very promising startups that need maybe 2 or 3 years to develop, because there's a product development stage and a period of time where there isn't any cash flow, any profitability coming from the business during those early days. And if that's the case, then debt is really not the right financing vehicle for them, and maybe an equity investment, someone who is more patient. As much as BDC is a patient lender, we're still a lender. And so I think you're speaking to the fact that angel investors, perhaps equity investors who are interested in coming in and using their knowledge and capital from a previous success to be able to help somebody else take their business forward, they have a bit more of that patience available. Plus it's an equity investment where there could be a higher return than there typically is on the lending that we or another lender might do. We do a lot of different things. I think the 3 main things that you'll see us lend on is we'll help an existing business that is maybe 3-4 years old or older, that is currently profitable and successful, and in a smaller, maybe leased premises, and they have a need for more space. And so having an interest in looking out at the real estate market and knowing that real estate has done fairly well, they might be inclined to go out and purchase their next location. So we'll help in that scenario. So financing real estate, financing equipment for a business that needs that equipment to seize a new market opportunity. And then the third thing that we do a lot of is inject working capital into businesses, because sometimes when your sales are growing at a rapid rate, entrepreneurs will be surprised to find out that with the sales rising, the cash is actually going down. And the reason is that it gets tied up in a larger and larger amount of accounts receivable, maybe a need for carrying a large amount of inventory. And so an injection of capital to support that rising sales growth is critical. It's important to put the business first and to think about how to build a strong balance sheet for the business. And one of the ways that can be done is to try to match up your financing appropriately. So that would mean that if you're going out and acquiring something that has a long-term lasting benefit, say like a piece of equipment, it makes sense to try to match up your financing on a longer basis there so you can preserve cash flow. Working capital, the precious cash resources, that's really the lifeblood of the business. And if the business is growing, you need to make sure that the business is capitalized and takes care of daily operating capital. And one way to do that is to finance long-term assets with long-term financing, and to try to resist the temptation to think of debt as a bad thing, the way that we might as individuals. Debt is a way to increase the capital that's available for the business to succeed.